Awesome. Hello, everyone. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
My name is Wolfrum, and I am with Cisco Systems. I am a Meraki product specialist, and I'm specifically dedicated to our relationship with CDW-G. So I'm actually CDW-G's on-site resource for all things related to Meraki. So just by a quick show of hands here, I'd be curious to know how many of you are familiar with Cisco's cloud-managed networking platform, Meraki? Awesome. I see one very enthusiastic hand in the back. Are you currently a Meraki customer today? Awesome. Great. Great. So it sounds like, just talking to people at the conference today, it sounds like you guys are really only familiar with Cisco Meraki's free mobile device management solution. But I'm actually here to tell you today maybe something that might be surprising to you. Meraki is actually a full stack networking solution. So that means that we help with not only end client device management with our MDM solution, we also support cloud managed wireless, security, as well as access and aggregation switching. And what's especially different about Cisco Meraki is that everything we do is managed from the cloud. So instead of having a bunch of additional hardware that you'd have to purchase that sits on site where you're manually configuring all of your hardware, you do everything from a simple and easy to use cloud controller. And what's great about managing your network from the cloud is that it actually allows you to manage your network from anywhere. So since cloud management might be new to some of you, I just wanted to review briefly what actual cloud architecture looks like. So the Cisco Meraki Cloud Controller is a fully HIPAA, PCI, and of course, most importantly for K-12, SIPA compliant solution. And the way that we're actually able to do that is that all individual user data actually is going to fall outside of the pane of management, and the only thing that will actually flow from the hardware to the cloud is your actual management data. So now that we have at least some idea of what Cisco Meraki is, right? This is the fastest growing portfolio from Cisco, everything being managed in the cloud, all hardware. I specifically wanted to talk to you a little bit about why Cisco Meraki has been so successful in the K-12 space and why we have K-12 IT directors and CIOs all over the country currently managing their Cisco network in the cloud. And there are really a couple of reasons why Cisco Meraki makes a lot of sense for the K-12 environment. How many of you feel like you're being asked to do more and more with less and less? Guarantee all of you, right? Bandwidth restraints on your network have probably increased. You have students bringing in devices from home. You probably have to purchase more devices. You don't really have a lot of ways to manage it, and it's probably getting really expensive, and it probably has increased in cost over the last few years. What's great about Cisco Meraki is because everything is managed in the cloud, it actually makes it a lot simpler and easier for you to manage all these types of problems, right? It makes it a lot simpler and easier for you to put all those clients in the cloud, to see exactly what they're doing, to control application and bandwidth. So why we've seen Cisco Meraki in K-12 is quite simply is it allows you to do more with less. And while I am going to talk to you about what our cloud controller actually looks like and give you a live demo today, I did want to talk about a couple of challenges and things that you can do to actually improve your network for really moments where you're going to have a lot of high density usage. And the big one for K-12 is typically state testing. So a couple of challenges that we often see with high density testing are making sure that every single student device is able to connect at the same time and not dropping out. It's also making sure that you actually have locked down a student's device, right? So you don't want them going to different applications where they can cheat. You don't want students at the high school streaming videos off of YouTube and eating up all the bandwidth if you're trying to complete state testing. The other thing, of course, you'd want to do as well is make sure that those devices are restricted, right? So maybe you want to put geo-based policies on those devices, making sure that those devices get locked down if the student walks off campus with one, right? Making the device essentially inoperable. And so I've actually put together about 5 things you can do to really help prepare your network for a high-density testing environment. So the first thing that you'd want to do, and this is something that's very simple and easy to configure with Cisco Meraki's Cloud Controller, is actually making sure that you're segmenting out the devices in your network that are going to be used for state testing. So something you can do with Meraki Wireless, we actually support up to 15 different SSIDs concurrently. So I would actually recommend that you create separate SSIDs for those different student or user groups, right? Maybe you have elementary school students that are doing testing in one grade and not another. Maybe you want to create a separate SSID for those students. Something you want to do as well is also apply any sort of layer 3 rules to actually allow access or prevent access to any testing servers you might have. The next thing you'd want to do is make sure that you're able to quickly and securely actually get devices enrolled in your mobile device management solution. So making sure that if you have a student that's bringing in their own device for state testing, or if you've purchased a bunch of new devices, that those devices are up and ready to go on the school network in a very short period of time. And with the Meraki Systems Manager tool, anytime that student actually tries to join the wireless network at school, they'll actually automatically have a profile pushed out to their device. So if you actually, as a network admin, have decided to do things like lock down certain applications, if you've decided to turn off a camera, as soon as that student brings that device on campus, that device will be locked down and will have the Systems Manager profile pushed out. The next is obviously making sure that you're looking at any sort of network considerations for high density usage, right? So things like airtime fairness, right? How are you going to actually have equal bandwidth distribution across clients, right? Maybe you'll have some client devices, maybe like for the principal at the school or administrators over at the school board who are going to have unlimited bandwidth access. But maybe you're going to want to have those elementary school students have limited bandwidth access. How do you make sure you're actually distributing bandwidth equitably across devices in the network? Also things like channel saturation. So something that's amazing about using a cloud management wireless access point is the fact that we actually have automatic radio frequency optimization built into the actual access points. So this means that if you have one channel that reaches a saturation point, you don't actually have to go in and readjust it. We actually have an algorithm baked into the hardware itself that'll actually automatically set up that access point for channel optimization. So pretty cool stuff there. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you get some trial gear and test it out for yourself so you're not actually having to worry about your channels being saturated on your access points. The next, of course, and I think this is a pretty obvious one, is making sure that you're actually controlling application consumption. So how many of you today feel like you have deep visibility into what applications students are using online and feel like you can control that? So no one feels like they have any control into that. They don't have a lot of visibility into what's going on. They can't really see what's happening. Something that's great about the cloud is we actually will give you in real time information about all the applications that are being used right now on your network, all the way down to less than 0.1% total bandwidth usage. And so you can actually drill down and you can actually create firewall traffic shaping rules based upon the bandwidth usage across applications that you see on the network. And then the final one, of course, is to ensure strong network reliability, right? The worst thing that could happen during state testing is having a moment of network downtime, right? You can imagine the kind of nightmare that would be. It would not be good. So something that we strongly recommend doing is making sure that you're building a resilient switching network to support your wireless infrastructure. And we do have cloud managed aggregation and core switching. So something to really keep in mind there as you start to spec out and build your network for a state testing environment. The next would obviously to make sure that you're containing any rogue SSIDs that might be coming into the network. So every single Cisco Meraki access point is actually going to include a dedicated third radio that's just going to be there just for scanning those rogue SSIDs, and actually you can flood them and essentially contain them so they can't take down your network. So I know that was pretty quick, but what I really wanted to do now is actually show you what some of this technology looks like in action, because I personally think PowerPoint's kind of boring. And you've probably been staring at them all day, and what I think is really cool is seeing technology and how it actually works. So with that being said, I'm actually going to pull up our cloud controller. So I'm actually looking at, I kind of have super user access right now. I'm actually looking at a bunch of our different demo accounts. So you'll actually see we have a lot of education clients that have allowed us to have access to their network. So schools like MIT and Stanford are using Cisco Meraki cloud managed technology today in their schools. But just to avoid any sort of political compromise here, I'm actually just going to show you what our office looks like our Meraki office in San Francisco. So the first thing you'll see actually when I access our Meraki network, and it looks like our wireless is a little bit slow at the hotel, so sorry if it's taking a minute to load. But what you'll see is I'm actually looking at all of the bandwidth usage every day for the last week. But I'm not limited to the last day. I can look at the last 2 hours, the last 30 days even. I even actually have the ability to set up forwarding services to a caching server, so I can actually save all this historical data as well. And something you'll see as well is I actually have this application drop-down menu. So the first thing you'll see here is all my top 20 applications for the last week. But as I mentioned, right, you can actually really scroll down into the weeds here, right? Less than 0.1% of total bandwidth usage. And what's great about this as well is if you're trying to identify applications that really aren't mission critical to the success of your network or learning environment, it's really easy to isolate those out. So if I see something on here that maybe just doesn't look right, maybe like Xfinity TV, for example, you're like, hey, I really don't want students streaming Xfinity TV. Granted, at our Meraki office in San Francisco, we're pretty loosey-goosey and people basically just hang out at work all day. So watching Xfinity TV during your lunch break, if you were an engineer or something kicking back, it wouldn't be a big concern on our network. But in an elementary school and a high school, it might be something you'd want to control. So if you click into that particular application, I actually can immediately see right away all the individual end users that are actually contributing to that rule. So a lot of these guys, really, maybe they were on there for a couple seconds or something, not a big deal, right? But if I look at this girl, Vanessa Hampton, I'm gonna throw her under the bus for a minute, right? She was a pretty aggressive user of Xfinity TV. So what I might wanna do is I might wanna see, what else is she doing? Is she a problem user on my network? And I can see, okay, the rest of the things she's doing on here don't look that bad, right? She's on Gmail, she's on Spotify, Google Video, New York Times, whatever. Maybe she's not as busy at work as she should be. She's spending a lot of time on Xfinity and New York Times, but hey, that's really not for me to say. What I might want to do, though, is I might want to actually apply, a different group policy to her, right? I might want to say, you know what, I'm just going to block her from the network. Like, she's just being a huge problem child. She is watching too many videos. So I might say no more Xfinity CIT, right? So the next time she tries to join the network, she'll see a splash page informing her she's been blocked from the network completely, right? Or maybe you want to send her to the principal's office, right? Maybe she's being really bad. Instead, however, you might just want to apply a group policy to her. You might want to say, you know what, we're just going to throttle back video so she can't watch Xfinity TV at school. And you just hit save, boom, problem solved, right? So that's a way you could actually drill in on an individual user level, but the question really becomes, okay, how do you actually deploy this out across groups of students, right? What if you don't want all of your fifth graders to access Xfinity, but maybe your high school students, maybe they have some learning collateral on Xfinity TV and they actually do need to stream that application. How do you create separate networking rules and separate bandwidth and application rules for different groups of students who have different learning needs and different really usage requirements on your network? So one of the simplest, easiest ways to do that, at least on the wireless side of the house, is to actually create separate firewall and traffic shaping rules for your separate SSIDs. So the way you would do that really simply and easily on the Cisco Meraki Cloud Controller is you would just say, hey, I want to add a layer 7 firewall rule. I am going to block video and music, and I am going to block, Xfinity TV, right? All the way down at the bottom. Boom. Xfinity TV is blocked. I have it set up to be blocked on my SSID number 5. I can maybe rename that to high school students, right? But let's say I don't want to just straight outright block something, right? Maybe I just want to discourage or encourage other types of behavior. So maybe for all of my students on this SSID, I'm going to scale bandwidth down just a little bit, right? Just to make sure things are equitably distributed across the network. But I want to make sure that I am blocking or kind of discouraging certain applications, right? So maybe the prom committee, maybe they need to access Facebook because they're posting pictures, what have you, but we don't want them spending all day on social media sites, right? So I would just go in, I would say Facebook, and I'm going to dial Facebook all the way down to 100 kilobits per second. So I'm not blocking Facebook, but I'm going to make it run really slow, really slow. However, if I wanted to prioritize another application, right? Let's say I wanted to make, VoIP and, video conferencing really highly prioritized. I could select all my VoIP and video conferencing applications, and I can actually say, you know what? Ignore any SSID per client bandwidth limits, right? It's going to be unlimited, and I'm going to set a DSCP tag of 7. And not only that, I can reorder these rules as well in terms of how I want traffic shaped and prioritized on this particular SSID. So you can bet when you have students call from a school phone to complain about Facebook being too slow, that call to you up in IT is going to be crystal clear. So those are some cool things you can do just on a bandwidth and client visibility side with the Meraki Cloud Controller. But something that I think is really important to look at as well is how you can actually troubleshoot problems, right? I feel like so much of the time our role in IT is to be the putter out of fires, right? And as long as you don't have any major fires that have to be put out, as long as you're not having anything go wrong on the network, you're golden. It's more of just a matter of when something does happen, how fast can you quickly resolve that issue? And I think what you'll see with the power of the cloud is that it's really simple and easy to do so because we give you such deep end-to-end network visibility. So to go back to that client page, right? Let's say you had maybe someone call in and complain because they were having network connectivity issues, right? Which would obviously be horrible, especially if it was during state testing time. So what you would do, maybe you would get a call, I'm going to say from Stephanie, right? So Stephanie, she's actually someone who works in our San Francisco office, but we'll pretend she's a student for now. So I could click in on Stephanie's individual client page, and I'd be able to see a lot of information about her, right? I'd be able to see exactly where she was located in the school, right? I'd have a map of her and what access point she's connected to, so I can see the access point right here. I can also see things like, what her network usage looks like, and I can see how strong her device signal is. So, and not only that, I can look at her systems manager profile, see that she's been tagged as an employee, see that it's up to date. So she really shouldn't have any issues, but maybe I want to dive a little bit deeper and I want to see exactly what's going on with Stephanie. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up the network topology. I'm going to click into the individual access point and see what's going on with the access point. Access point looks good, right? For all means, it looks like it's powered. I can see the Ethernet traffic that's actually flowing through that access point in real time. I can see all the other clients that are being powered by that access point. None of them look like they're having issues. And I can also look at what the connectivity looks like, as well as the mesh neighbors, as well as the channel utilization. So everything here at a glance looks pretty good. Must not be the access point. Maybe it's something else, right? So let's go up even further into the network topology. Let's take a look at the actual switch port. So I can see she's connected to port 7 on the switch that we named closet 4-1-2. So I'm immediately now in that switch port that's powering Stephanie's device. That took me, about 30 seconds to get there? How long would that take in a traditional non-cloud managed network, do you think? Would you even know? No? You don't think so? Okay, so now I'm in the port, right? And it's green. Green is good. It looks like it's totally connected, right? But maybe something else is going on, right? So what I might want to do is I might want to run a cable test on the port, right? So I can actually run a cable test. I'm actually running a cable test on a switch in San Francisco, by the way. So you can do this from home. You can do this from your cell phone. You can do this from any school you might be at. And it looks like all of our cable tests on that particular port look good, right? I can also disable and re-enable the port. And something I could do that's really cool as well, especially maybe if I was trying to get a student in trouble or I thought that they were cheating on the network, is I could do a packet capture on a particular port. And I could actually see the data that's flowing through. So I don't think it's going to let me do a real live packet capture right now. Yep, I didn't think so, because I'm here at the Marriott. But you could do this. So you could actually do a live packet capture. You could do deeper troubleshooting. And really, this all happens in just a couple of clicks, right? So really simple and easy to actually kind of go up the network to do troubleshooting. And then, of course, if I wanted to actually look at maybe something even deeper, right? Hey, maybe this switch is connected to another switch, which is connected to my firewall. What's going on there, right? I could actually do that as well. And I would actually just go and take a look at the network topology map for the network. And this is actually a live network topology map, so you can actually see any changes that are being made to your network in real time. So this is the switch I was just looking at, right? I know Stephanie was connected to port number 7, but I can also see that this switch is actually connected to this other switch via port 23. That switch is closet 4.1.0. Hopefully you have more creative naming conventions than we do at Meraki. And I can actually trace it all the way down to my router, all the way down to my firewall. So complete end-to-end network visibility all the way from the client to the firewall in just a couple of clicks, all simple and easy to manage from one centralized dashboard across really any product you would want to have in your network. So that's a little bit about Meraki and the cloud controller. I actually could talk about it all day because, to be totally honest, I think it's really cool and really exciting. But it does look like I'm out of time. So what I wanted to leave you with is just the knowledge that we do have an exclusive offering for K-12, which would be actually a 5-year discount on the 5-year license for the Meraki Cloud Controller. And we do also have really awesome E-rate eligibility as well. So everything in the Meraki portfolio is E-rate eligible, with the exception of Systems Manager, which sounds like some of you guys are using today. So if you guys are planning to apply for E-rate, know that you can actually get any of our gear sent out to you to try out for free. We don't even require a deposit or anything else. You'd have it sent out, test it out, and then if you like it, great. It's E-rate eligible, get the funds and get it set up and running in your network. So are there any questions? I think we have maybe 1 minute left. 5 minutes left? Oh, 10 minutes left. Got it. Any questions I can take from the group? Yes, sir. It has to be a Cisco Meraki switch specifically to see that interface. So it's the same sort of specs you would expect from a Cisco Catalyst switch, but the Cisco Catalyst switch does not have the ability to connect to the cloud. So the only hardware that's going to be visible on an interface like this and configurable and manageable is going to be a Cisco Meraki switch. Cisco Catalyst switches, also awesome, great product. You can also use other parts of the Cisco Meraki platform with any existing Cisco switching infrastructure you have today. So if you wanted to use Cisco Meraki Wireless with your Cisco Catalyst switches, they all work great together. I actually had a school district in Arkansas use Cisco Meraki switches, but Cisco AirNet for their wireless. So you can really kind of mix and match the different product sets depending upon your needs. But to have that full end-to-end network visibility, it would all need to be Meraki hardware that can be managed in the cloud.
So one of the questions I get a lot is around security, right? So what information is actually sent to the cloud?
Yeah, so the only thing that's going to be sent to the cloud is going to be the actual user management data. So I have actually a good little visual of that, which I think I showed earlier. So anything that is management data will traverse through the cloud, whereas anything that's sort of individual user data is going to fall outside of the pane of management. So this is a fully SIPA compliant solution, and that means that we're not actually tracking any individual user data. And something else you can always look at as well if you have more questions about sort of security and the cloud and Cisco Meraki and what that looks like, you can always go to meraki.com/trust. And this will actually, oops, I did not type that in right. And this will actually provide you with all of our security documentation. So you can see things like information about our data centers, you can see our 99.99% SLA. You can get more information about the out-of-band control plane. And you can also see things like our SLA agreement and our location analytics information as well. So that's actually all there for you, documented on the Cisco Meraki dashboard. And another great resource that you can take a look at on our website as well is we actually have a really amazing Cisco Meraki webinar program. How many of you guys have heard about the Cisco Meraki webinar program? One person in the back from Edu Tek. Awesome. So we actually will do lots of different webinars on different topics that might be useful to you, right? So introduction to cloud networking, configuring your network for a BYOD setup or a one-to-one initiative that you might have. You can actually get on a webinar, talk to one of our Meraki product specialists or a Meraki engineer, have all your questions answered, and they'll cover topics that are really relevant to you in K-12. Awesome. So it looks like that's it from me. But if there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to my wonderful colleague, Gil, here to the right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.